I just start recording. So I want to thank you so much. So how do I pronounce your name to start with? Hello and welcome to Obehi Podcast. I'm your host, Obehi Ewanfo, and I strongly believe that everyone has a story to share. Now let's get started with this episode.
So my government name is Robbin Swinger Otey, O-T-E-Y, Otey. But most people call me Sister Otey.
Okay,
Sister
Sister
Otey,
Otey.
one word, Sister Otey. Yeah, you're actually connecting with me now from beautiful Aurora, Colorado, which is a suburb of Denver, Mile High, the beautiful Rocky Mountains. I was actually born in Denver, raised in Los Angeles. And that's pretty much it as far as where I am. I love it here. It's beautiful here, nice and clean.
I remember when you were saying, when I was asking of the time, no, when we were trying to set up the time for the interview, we said
Yes.
mountain. So I was trying to mountain. Are you like in the mountain? So I wasn't very clear on that.
So Colorado. We're super special people, and we are part of the world that has our own very own time zone. So Mountain Standard Time is 1 hour. So say I am 10 o'clock right now in Aurora, Colorado, and it's 9 o'clock in California, and it's 12 o'clock on the East Coast. So
Wow.
Yeah.
That's interesting. And it is 6 p.m. here in Italy where I'm talking to you.
Nice.
Which is actually that is interesting. So you were born actually.
I was born in Denver, Colorado, right here in the beautiful Rocky Mountains. Denver General Hospital used to be called back in the day. I was raised in Los Angeles. I got all of my public schooling done in Los Angeles Unified School District. Go Dorsey Dons. My high school, just started my college education there and finished it here in Colorado.
That's interesting, in Colorado. Yeah. All right. So tell me, when you were growing up, this little you just now that is growing up there, take me there. I'm interested in that story.
You have to buy the book to know about the growing up me. I was petite, very active. My father and my mother were both in the household, which was not unique at the time I was growing up. I always loved school, pretty physical, always loved to dance. I don't think I was an introvert growing up. I don't know what happened when I became an adult. I don't have a memory of being really introverted. Pretty much have a memory of, playing and just having a lot of fun, enjoying life as a child. All the other stuff you have to read in the book.
Anyway, you never even tell me about this book. Anyway, we'll get to the book just now because that is interesting. Since you have written something about you that people can read, but of course, we'll start with you so that we know a little background about you.
Yes.
All right. Now, growing up in Colorado, what were your trajectory? Like, what were you like aiming at? Say maybe when you grow up, you are going to become this or become that. Of course, we all have those kind of images, no?
So I actually grew up in Los Angeles, California. As I mentioned, Go Dorsey Dons. That's my high school, Susan Miller Dorsey. I feel like it's interesting because I was kind of had an easygoing childhood once I got to a certain age. So I don't have a memory of wanting to be any particular thing. I will say I came out of high school as an English major. I had that much connection, right? I came out of high school as an English major. Didn't really like that. I didn't like that we had to create assignments where we had to read something to tell you what the author meant when they wrote that. I'm like, how do I know? At 19, I couldn't respond to that. And so I pretty much, was active cheerleader, ran track, kind of, I want to say a typical childhood for, a student in Los Angeles back in those days.
So you like dancing, you like music, if I hear you right before, right?
Yes.
So what was your kind of music at the time?
So Flashlights. That's my age group. Flashlight, right? You can ring my bell. You can ring my bell. Ding dong, ring it. That's my age group.
That's interesting. I really like your personality. You are alive. Eh? This is very interesting. Okay, now tell me, how did you get into the business part of farming? Or let's talk about the farming as it were, the
Yes.
Georgia project. Tell me
Yes.
about it. Just for people who do not know, tell us about it.
Yep, I'm gonna keep it brief too. So this is one of my favorite subjects, maybe my number 2 favorite subject. And I'll tell you that I started even gardening, even thinking about gardening back in early 2000-ish. I was suffering from clinical depression, believe it or not. And I'm a nerd. I call myself a nerd, proud title. And I was doing all kind of research to see how to bring myself some relief. So I'm a spirit-filled believer. So I had the prayer piece going, I had the prayer line going. But I felt like I wanted to be, I guess, maybe more hands-on and trying to get some relief. Anyway, I came across information that talked about gardening as a way to bring relief. I bought one little pot, beautiful little pot with a geranium flower in it, put it on my patio, and that's how my gardening started. I moved back to Colorado, Denver, which is where I was born, moved next door to my granny, as a matter of fact, threw some seeds in the ground in the backyard and things grew. And I was like, oh, maybe I'm good at this. Didn't even know. And just my own natural curiosity. This was long before you could just Google and find everything. And my granny kind of grew a little bit. So that's how it started, is trying to find a relief to to help my mind, and now here in 2021, I am, I was gardening as a hobby. Before that moment, it kind of got out of hand. People started asking me so many questions. I'm like, I'm gonna have to start charging for this. So I ended up becoming, time is valuable, right? I started,
Sure.
I became a garden coach. And so that's how I became into the business of gardening. So Georgia Green Project, I have always facilitated holistic events, products and services. So in a holistic event, for example, I would facilitate, people don't know, might not think that is a holistic medicine. And so my hobby became, like I said, I had to monetize it because it was taking up so much of my time. And then to shorten the story even more, I got training because, like I mentioned, the nerd style. So I am a certified master composter with Denver Urban Gardens. I am a trained community garden manager, also through Denver Urban Gardens. What else do I know? Do I have paper on? I think those are the 2 main things that I have certifications in at this point. I've started growing in pots. I've grown in the ground. And so where I am now in 2021, when the pandemic hit, a lot of people turned to gardening to feed themselves. Some were like, oh, I got to do something. Some was just because now they had time to finally get in the yard. I call it the yard. Some chose to do it as a therapeutic method. It's actually more common. I can't say it's more common because it's more prevalent or more readily accessible as a remedy than people know. I'm old to the organizing game. I'm old to the gardening game. I'm new to the food justice game. And when I found out, and actually even took a course and found out how food was a way to, was used as a weapon, right? Was weaponized against people all over the world. Grocery store to buy my regular things, my veggies and my fruit, they were all still on the shelves. And these other things people were stockpiling weren't not necessarily even the more healthy choices. And so, when I got the information around the social justice piece, I said, okay, how can I be better able to support my people? That's everybody that's hungry, right? How can I better support that? So I'm an educator by training. I'm an educator by calling. And so I took the garden coaching, which was kind of an individual thing I was doing with individual people. I told you I made it into a group. We became a whole gardening group. And then I had an opportunity to actually manage an entire community garden. And that is the vision, that I would have a growth space like I have now, where I'm able to train people how to grow outside, right? We're going to have containers in 2022 to train people what I call plot management, because there's so many simple things. But what I found when people started reaching out, during the pandemic, trying to get some help with their gardening, is that people were looking for shortcuts or didn't really know where to start. And because of the coaching, I had created a little template that would made it easy for me just to transition from coaching individuals to coaching groups to being able to manage an entire yard. Ooh, that was a lot.
Oh, of course, the project is important. You just needed to explain it, and I think that was really very interesting. I was just here listening, because it's really very interesting.
It's clearly I'm very passionate about it. And I'll say these things. I don't really know how much time we have, but I do want to make sure that the listeners and the viewers in the future will know that my mission and my desire is not necessarily to make everybody be a grower, right? Like everybody's not going to want to grow. Everybody can't grow, but for everyone to participate in resisting reclaiming their food system. Wherever they are, how do you reclaim your food system? Well, if you're not going to grow, because I'm going to grow, right? You can hire me to grow for you. And the women that I've trained, you can hire us to manage your plot. You can go to farmers markets. That's how you support. You can go, do you know that your food is more healthy? That same carrot that I grow, that I'm only bringing 8 blocks to the farmer's market. It's more healthy for the person that's getting a carrot that's come 1,100 miles. It's just science, And so I could talk forever. I could talk forever about resisting food apartheid. I could talk forever about supporting food sovereignty. I am also a licensed minister. And so I also come from the position of God has given us everything that we need. Every single thing that we need to survive is already here on earth. And that we just need to remember what those things are and to go back, really. See, my age group and folk older than me, especially on the East Coast, they are not trying to hear conversations about growing because they had to be in the fields as children. So I'm talking to those millennials. I'm talking to those young people who, being in the yard doesn't sound like a drudgery to them, or choosing to eat real food, right? Because what you'll see, because you can't just grow, you have to have the growers, you have to have the market. We even have chefs, because people are like, well, I like to grow the food and we get it all the time at the market. Well, what do I do with it? So we being the Soul Sisters, we have recipes. You don't know how to make fried green tomatoes? We have recipes. All the things that we grow and that we sell at the farmer's market, we have recipes to support that piece to it. You get me on my soapbox.
Well, that is because you are passionate about it. And when you are asked to talk about something you are passionate about, you usually end up like that. And I think it's really interesting like that.
Yeah.
All right. Now, in your explanation, you made mention of something that are really very interesting for me, something like reclaiming your food right. Also, because I was also reading on your Facebook page, I got something that said that food resistance and sovereignty is your love story, something like that. It's your love language. Would you like to tell me something about that?
Yes, so that's something new for me, because we have to keep evolving and growing as we continue to learn and get new information. And what you saw on my Facebook page is that resisting food apartheid is my love language. Like, that's what gets me fired up. Somebody wants to get my attention, talk to me about growing some food, or talk to me about how you're going to support resisting food apartheid. Food apartheid, what does that mean? Apartheid, people are familiar with that term apartheid because you've heard people use the phrase food desert. Well, as a grower and as a preacher, a desert is not a negative space. It's just a different type of space. Whereas apartheid is intentional, right? It's usually legislated. It's usually funded by corporate influences. This is all over the world. It's very much on purpose, that some neighborhoods you have to walk a distance before you can get to fresh food. So when I say it's my love language, that's how I choose to express myself. I'm loving you if I'm trying to give you a plant. I'm loving you if I'm telling you, if you add a little Epsom salt, to your seedlings, then the seedlings will start better. Like, that's how I'm now at this time in my life, is how I'm expressing how I love. It's how I love the people, by educating, right? Like I said, everybody can't grow. Everyone doesn't want to grow. Everybody doesn't have to grow, but somebody's growing. Somebody grew that food and got the phrase that you heard me say was that we are resisting food apartheid and we are reclaiming our food system. That's where we eat it. That's where we grow it. I'm part of an organization that supports our growing. We are able to sell at the market with no vendor fees. And then at the end of the market, they take our food that's left over and give it to the elders. See, that's important. That is another way to resist food apartheid, is to give our seniors just fresh food that they may not get otherwise, especially if they're in some type of I don't even know the names of it. Convalescent home, they probably don't call them that now. Assisted living, maybe is what they call them now, right? And so it's very exciting to be able to express my love, right, by helping people to not just eat, not just grow, and hopefully build to their body of work. But
all right, now, and when you are talking of food apathy, like
yes.
there is a kind of a system that make it impossible for some people to produce the kind of food that they want to eat. I think we need some explanation about that. I don't know if you can clarify some of that. So if you can clarify that system for
Not phrase in place, very intentionally in place to stop people from being able to grow, to buy, or to eat food that is indigenous to them. So I am part of a community garden system, Denver Urban Gardens. In that community garden system, one of the powers in that is that the people in the community garden, they grow food that is indigenous to wherever it is that they've come from. I don't know how much people may know about Aurora, Colorado, but we are very international. We have a lot of different cultures, a lot of people from a lot of different nations here. And so resisting food apartheid, and I probably shouldn't use that phrase so much. I should say supporting food sovereignty. People can kind of feel supporting, that feels good. I'm supporting food sovereignty, same thing. You're being intentional. It's the intentionality of it, right? You are on purpose. And unfortunately for some, part of resisting food apartheid could mean becoming more of a green eater and less of a meat eater. That's a whole nother conversation about how the meat industry in America anyway is attached to the medical together to keep the people of color types of food that they choose to put in our neighborhoods and that we are choosing to buy.
All right. Now, this system, is this something that is peculiar to Colorado or in the area where you live, or is this something that is widespread across the United States?
Oh, it's all over the United States. You can go any urban area in particular. I say urban areas, but I'm that's the extent of my research, but I'm sure that I can look in any rural area. Typically, the numbers, when I did the little bit of researching that I did do, I found the areas were primarily based on a lower income area and also lower education. And so what you found was, so my area is kind of unique in that I can actually I could walk 4 blocks and get to two grocery stores in my particular neighborhood. That is not common in most urban areas. You can maybe find, am I going to name names? I'll say, 7-Eleven, corner stores. You can go anywhere and get this processed food easily in most urban areas across America. Now, I haven't checked internationally. I will say I did take a course it was medical anthropology, actually. And in this medical anthropology course, it talked about how when the imperialists came, okay, here we go with the sticky stuff. When the imperialists came, this was worldwide. When the imperialists came in, you know, the people, our indigenous, our original way to do business was bartering or reciprocity. You know, you had something I needed and I had enough of it, I gave it to you. That's how we, whatever landmass you live in, whatever nation that you are on, viewers, check your history. If the imperialists came, and I don't care what country they came from, Portuguese, British, Britain, wherever they came from, they took the people, and I can speak to America specifically because unfortunately they use America, what they call the United States of America, as a model. They said, Choctaw, you cannot grow what it is that you eat. You're going to grow this cash crop. You're going to grow this cash crop, whatever that crop was, indigenous to that area. And now I don't have time to grow the food that I need to stay healthy. I did a whole semester of watching them, right, do that all over the world. And it immediately impacts the people's health all over the world. There are issues with obesity. There are issues with congestive heart failure all over the world, not just in what they so-called industrialized, because they brought this processed food in. I can't grow my own food because you had me out there working 12 and 15 hours a day to grow this food that you're going to sell that's not indigenous to my genetics. Because let's keep it real, right? It's not indigenous to my genetics. It's not the food that my people have been eating for generations. And so now people are living shorter lives in these other countries. You know, they are, so it's heartbreaking. And that's a part of the food sovereignty is not just growing the food, you know, it's not just buying the food at the market. When you're buying the food at the market, you're honoring and you're respecting those people that are growing the food. If you're honoring food sovereignty, you are honoring and respecting that local information. You can't really tell me in Colorado, you can't be in New York and tell me the best way to grow in Colorado. That's why we have local extension offices. So it got me going. It is worldwide. It is not hard to solve. It's not hard to solve. I don't believe that people of color can't work together. I believe that some folk may choose not to work together. Collective economics is not unique and not new. They've ever heard of Fannie Lou Hamer here in the United States with the Freedom Farms. That was the only way that the people enslaved folk, now freed de jure, not necessarily de facto, right? Came together so that they could grow. She said, if you give me a garden and you give me a pig, I don't care what else you do to me, at least I'll be able to eat. And so part of the roots is I want people to think about, don't cry, think about the fact that we need food to live.
Absolutely.
We need food to live. Of course, we need clean water. That's not my area though, right? But we need food to live. And right now, this is the lane that I'm in. This is the lane that Spirit has me in. I'm grateful for every platform opportunity to encourage the people to think about living a more plant-based life. You'd be surprised at how easy it is to grow so many things. I am not the only garden coach out there or the only person out there that offers those types of services. You know, it's just like a fitness coach. You have to find the one that fits your personality. You know, find the one that fits your budget. Find the one that fits your growth zone. You know, but be conscious about, at least think about growing something, or you letting somebody else use your yard to grow something, shopping at your local farmers markets, you know, sowing seed, your talent, your treasure, you know, come help us in the community garden. You know, it's so much that we can do in order to, we have got to make a decision to work together and help each other so we can live. I have 8 grandchildren, you know, that I need to leave behind. And I don't want to leave. I want my legacy to be Granny did the best she could, you know, to help mankind, womankind, humankind.
That's interesting. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's humankind, not just mankind, but also humankind. It's humankind. Okay, that's interesting. That's interesting. All right. No, no, no. It is very important. This point that you are raising on of food. What we call it food security,
Yes,
as it
yep,
were,
that's the
because there
word.
is agricultural researcher in Nigeria that I've interviewed a number of times in this particular topic because it's something that is in Africa. It's a big issue, no? In that people don't really have access to food, but these people have access to land. But this one might be a different argument altogether, no? In that maybe because of the irresponsibility on the part of those who are in charge of these countries, they don't lay emphasis on the production of food. For
Yes,
this reason, even though the land is fertile, in terms of physical land, and the product of the land, which include also the human being, if you want, are also fertile because the people are young, meaning they have the energy to have been
yes,
able to produce food for themselves.
yes,
Those who are in charge, those who are leading them somewhere, I don't know where they are leading them actually, haven't thought that it is important that they put them to work to produce food. For this reason, there is food insecurity across Africa.
yeah, yeah,
But it doesn't really make any sense because you have a population that is the youngest in the whole of all the continents of the world. We import food, rice, other type of food from other parts of the world to feed the people.
yeah.
But what happens to the land? So that is why I feel it is very important, the argument that you are raising about food sovereignty.
Yes.
So then you were also saying that it is not difficult to solve as a problem. So I want you to say something to that solution.
Yes.
What do you mean by it's not difficult to solve?
Yep. And so let me also say the food sovereignty is not just about growing the food. It does indeed include the land and the water. The land and the water. And there are, you said that they have not deemed it to be important to feed, to choose to use the land to feed the people. That's interesting. It's not that they haven't deemed it important. Well, that is exactly what it is, because they're choosing to put profit over people. Somehow, the monetary gain is what we're looking at, right? Like clearly, I can't speak to anything that's happening to any of the countries that are on the African continent, right? But I know that I can say beyond a shadow of a doubt that it's connected to monetary gain for putting profit over people. Land is an issue here, even here. That's what people say. I can't grow. I don't have anywhere to grow, and that's true. And that is a challenge. But the answers, how Fannie Lou Hamer's group worked it, right, is they came together collectively as a group. They I guess they were able to trust each other. Let that be a word today, to be able to pool their monies and their resources and their talents in order to get land together. And in order to trust each other is a word. There's certain, like we want to get a house. The Soul Sisters want to get a house. We need to have our own growth space where we can turn the water on and off when we want to, and that is a process. But I believe that it's doable. Of course, I don't have all the answers and I don't have all the connections. But I'll say that I'm in different groups on Facebook. I'm watching people making these networks. I'm watching people, what are the connections that you need to have information? Do we dare to educate ourselves? Do we dare to educate ourselves? That I will say, yes, we do. And you talked about the young people, those who have because I was pulling a bag this last year. I said, I had a bag of mushroom compost over my shoulder. I said, yeah, we're not gonna be able to keep this up much longer. We need the young people to want to do it. That's the tricky part. And so you're telling me that there are nations on the continent of Africa that have young people and have land. And for some reason, I guess those who have the authority to create mass agriculture are not choosing to do that. But you also have the stories of Wangari Maathai with the Green Belt movement that just started planting trees. They didn't wait for anybody's permission. They didn't wait to ask permission. Someone came up with an idea. May not be Sister Otey, may not be able to help the continents in Africa, but I would hope the countries on the African continent, but I would hope the viewers and the listeners would be inspired to find those who are of a like mind and to really make a conscious decision to trust each other. I think trust is an issue.
Yeah. That is a key point there, no? Because for you to be able to organize yourself, you need to have to trust yourself.
Yes.
And of course, you need also the resources to that.
Yes.
And of course, when you are talking of maybe some certain individual decided to plant tree, those are of course very important step. But for you to go beyond that, you need support. We also anyway, we're not even going to go deeper in those areas like how the land are distributed and all that, which are the law governing it, and what are the resources needed to be able to plant food. But I'm saying that from the point of view of the resources, both human and natural, Africa have a lot to be able to provide food for herself, but people don't have access to food. They are not producing, which means it's just a kind of a human error. Whether it is error or a deliberate attempt not to, anyway, that we can leave that aside because that is a complex issue. We might not necessarily have to go there.
Yeah.
Now, let's go back to California where you were before, no? When you were growing up. Was the system exactly the same like it is today? What kind of comparison can you make between then when you were younger and now, and what you are seeing that made you to take action?
That's interesting because I have a clear memory as a child. So the grocery store that I could walk to that was a couple blocks away, it had a smell to it. It was not the same type of fruit. The freshness was not the same as the grocery store that was at, like at my college I went to, that was just maybe a few or 4 or 5 miles down the road. So I don't know if I saw anything. I noticed it at the time, but I was a child. I wasn't thinking about, trying to feed the world or even feed myself too much in those days. But I did, it was, evident enough for me to notice that the food in the grocery store 2 blocks away was not the same as the food in the grocery store in Culver City, that the Culver City food was much more fresh, that's probably the first time I would have ever even been made aware of any type of inequity regarding food. And can't remember if I knew then that it was because of the neighborhood, because I didn't live in a poor neighborhood, but I definitely lived in a non-white people neighborhood, definitely that. I would say now there's quite a few, like back in my days, there were not a lot of, I don't want to name names because I don't have to give people commercials, but these, food stores that have more natural foods, more organic choices. Those stores were not in my neighborhoods then. And I don't have those stores in my neighborhoods even now, like 30 years later, 40 years later. We still don't have those choices. And I honestly believe it's by design in more than one way. First of all, some of these stores whose names won't be named, they have, because have all these, I'm learning all this new vocabulary. They have something that's called food mirage, which means the food it's there in the neighborhood. You can go there, but you can't afford what's in there. It's not in the budget. It may be on the block, but it's not in the budget.
Why is it there in that case? What is it serving? If the people you are bringing the food to cannot afford it, what is the essence there?
Because they're serving those that so maybe those, because I said, well, this is a strange place for that store to be in. And I said, oh, because you might have this little business complex. Who else is buying it? I might try to go in there and buy it, but and then I'll say, I don't know how it is anywhere else. But you'll have people that it's like they act like it's a white people thing. It's like, that is not a white people thing to eat healthy. That is a people thing, and if you understood that those of us with melanin, whatever level of melanin that we have, of all people of color, there's certain types of food. Oh, now you're gonna be on this subject that our bodies benefit more from, more electricity. Don't get me started on the science. But
yeah,
the bottom line, because you asked me a question that I took 20 minutes to answer. The bottom line answer is always profit over people. That's why. because they may put it in the neighborhood, and maybe those that live there that can walk there can't buy it, but there's someone, because they've done their little research, they've done what they do. They don't just throw a store somewhere, they throw a store a particular place for a particular retail for a particular place and a particular reason. So that would be my only answer, is that there's somewhere around there that's able to support that business. And if you look around, you'll say, oh, she's right. Look at that. The residences may look oppressed, but 2 blocks down, you'll see a whole, 4 or 5 buildings with 300 or 400 people in them that want to do their grocery shopping before they go home, before they get on the road.
Thank you for that. Now, before we move to what can be the possible solutions, I want to hook up to what you said before in the beginning of the podcast, that some of the people of your age, for example, of your generation,
yes,
most of them are not interested in this journey that you are in. Can you say something about that?
Well, you tell me one time, he said, now he's part of the denomination that's primarily on the southeast coast of the United States, right? He said, I appreciate the work that you're doing. He said, but the reason why we went to college was to get out of the fields. He said, we worked so we could pay to go to summer school so we would not have to go home to be in the fields. That's one example. I don't know what the examples are around the world. I guess I better become more international, but I can say in America, we have a history of what's called sharecropping. So there's a negative connotation to working the land, or being a farmer. For the older generation, it was a burden. Like, you didn't do that because you wanted to, you did that because you had to, that's what I think, because I'm a city girl. So I didn't have that experience. That's probably why I don't resist it. Right. But I'm finding the ones my age and older than me, well, maybe they're not physically able to do it as well.
Okay. That can also be one of the reasons.
Yeah. I forgot about that part. I'm pretty sturdy for an old lady.
All right, that is good. Okay, now, say maybe somebody somewhere in Colorado want to go into farming. How easy is it to even acquire land and the resources to go about it?
So it's not easy. It's not easy. The land might not be the challenge in Colorado as much as it is the water. As we have called water right-of-ways. Colorado is a special case. Maybe other places are too. We just a few years ago were residents even able to have rain barrels in our yards. Like, that's how much control Colorado was legislating the water in our state, partly because we are part of the national watershed. All the water, all the water in Colorado from the Rocky Mountains, comes down through the Continental Divide and pretty much sends water throughout the continental United States. Like, we've had 1 day of snow since this year, so that's not looking good. But it would not be. So the land I'm talking about if you're trying to buy a farm. So everybody's not trying to be a farmer. If you're trying to be a homesteader, okay, you'll be better off. But for those that are watching the real estate prices, they know that in this particular state of Colorado, the prices have gone up. Ever since Amendment A passed, ever since we had recreational marijuana, literally, the rent has gone up. That's the marker. That's what we all say. Oh man, we call it the mile high income state. The mile high. They call Denver the mile high city. We're the mile high income city. So it's not. I'm not gonna say it's easy. I don't know where it's easy. I see people in these groups saying it's easy in other places. I don't know if I'm looking for easy. I'm looking for efficient. I'm looking for legacy building. So even if it's hard to get the land, once we get it, we need to be able to maintain it and hold on to the land.
Now, say somebody want to go embark on this journey of being close to the nature, producing what you eat and eating what you produce, no, which is actually a kind of a nice philosophy that we can even trade if we want, no?
Yeah.
So what do you think are the strategy to embark on it, to go that road?
Oh, so now that I've inspired them, what do? I'm always going to tell you to read. For those of you, I thought I had the books handy. I'm going to always send you to a book. For those of you, you have to always know your why. I'm just going to give you that. You have to know your why. Why are you growing this food? So I'd say that social justice is part of my reason why. So the books that I read have to do with like the Freedom Farmers by Dr. Monica White, where she talks about the collective cooperative farming situation here in America. I'm going to tell you to get good books like anything by the Rodell family, right? I'm going to tell you to read. I'm going to tell you to get resources. And so this is why folks don't want to do it, because now it sounds like it's getting hard, right? But if you have to study to show yourself approved, you can throw some seeds out there if you want to, and something will probably grow, because really, the plants don't need, only reason why the plants need our help is because they're not in their natural environment. But plants know how to grow. Right. So
that's a good point.
I would tell a person to be clear on why you're doing it, because on that day when you don't feel like watering, you need to know I'm watering because I need to feed myself. I need to feed my family. I need to feed my community, whatever. I need to do for my mental health, whatever your why is. That's the first step that I would tell them to do. It's a whole list of things. You know, we have a whole teaching curriculum to help people go through their process. That will be the first step, is for them to make a commitment to educate themselves.
And because it is very expensive as a project, no? And because getting the land, getting the crop, getting the water, like you said, that is not something very easy in your part. But of course, we're not looking for the easy part. We are looking for an efficient solution to a problem that is very, it is serious. What we are talking about here, food, is a serious thing. So it's something that we must do. Because we must do it, so we're looking for what can be the possible way to solve this problem. Say, for example, financing. What can you say in those areas? Maybe somebody want to seek for finance to be able to solve the expenses. What can you say about that?
So there's quite a few things. I'll just try to keep it real short. If you really want to sell, like grow for a profit, you need to make sure you set up your little separate business entity, keep those expenses separate. That will be the first thing I would say. That's probably the biggest mistake I see people make, is they don't function. If they're trying to function as a separate entity, they don't support their accounting records that way. That is very important. Let me see. I think that would probably be the number one thing. That's probably the biggest issue that I see, is people being able to keep, you have to, be willing to get information. See, the subject is too broad. So if somebody's trying to be a farmer, then you probably need to go apprentice somewhere, right? You need to go to somebody's farm and work with them and see what that means to be a farmer. If you're trying to be a homesteader, like I'm more of a homesteader, I more want to be able to sustain myself and my family at the house, right? And then I'm also a community grower, where I grow enough to not only sustain myself and my family, but to actually try to sell the produce. We sell the produce and we give the produce away.
Right, that is that for that. So tell us about your coaching business. Somebody want to connect with you. How can they connect with you?
So how can they connect with me? They can find me, where they can always email me at sistaotey33@gmail.com. I will then send them an assessment sheet, because I need, find out what it is that they want to do. What does that mean? You want me to coach you? Like, it's just like a fitness coach. Some people might want to lose weight. Some people might want to tone up. Somebody might just need, they already know how to do it all. They just need somebody to help motivate them to come along. And so that's the main way. They can find me on Facebook at A Georgia Green Project. I think you can see that back there. Just A Georgia Green Project. Just find me on Facebook. I'm not hard to find. I have a YouTube channel. Need some tech support with that, but I have to try to save the work somewhere. So I've been saving it on YouTube. People can see. My specialty probably is designing right? So we don't just grow the food. If you look at the Facebook page, you're going to see we grow very beautiful food. It's like she didn't just grow beets, she grew orange beets, you know. She didn't just grow tomatoes, they had yellow tomatoes. And so that's kind of our niche. But that's all they have to do to find me. Email me, find me on Facebook. I'll be happy to connect with them, see what we can do remotely.
All right. Now, in terms of what you produce in your farm, what actually do you produce? Vegetable? Tell me something more about that.
Boy, it's a long list. Okay, this is my favorite. Okay, I can tell you last year actually grew for a client. And so for that client, we always go garlic. We always have all the flowers we grow are always edible. So even though we don't always eat the flowers, they're edible pollinators. So we have cosmos, zinnia, marigolds. We have calendula. We have dill. We grew a red lettuce. We had kohlrabi. We had spinach. We had 2 different kind of beets. We had 2 different kind of kale. We had 3 different type of radish. I had 2 different type of tomatoes. You see, my favorite part. We had bell peppers. We had jalapenos. And then at another yard, we had Armenian cucumbers. Some people may know them as snake melons. We had 2 different types of cucumbers. I think we had Market More, and I forgot the other one. We had zucchini. We had little baby sugar baby watermelons. We had amaranth. I feel like we had turnips. We had cantaloupe. We had a lot, and those are just all growing in community garden plots.
That's interesting.
It's really, very fun. I love it. It's so fulfilling that I could plant 3 seeds and get all this fruit. She said, every time I come out here, I'm just, flabbergasted at how much food we're able to produce. And I told you I'm a licensed minister, so I get all my little preaching in there. Every life lesson that you can attach to gardening, it's so many.
Is there anything you would like to say to conclude the conversation? Maybe something I didn't ask you, anything that you would like to say to conclude the conversation?
Let me see. I just really want to, again, thank you so much for allowing me this opportunity and this platform to, share my love language of resisting food apartheid. I just want all the listeners, all the viewers to be encouraged to, choose to eat whole foods, shop at your local farmer's market, grow something if you can, find a local garden coach, just, be intentional. God gave us this world, all of it is his and the fullness thereof. We have every single thing that we need in order to survive. Part of that is each other.
Thank you so much. That is really very, very powerful as a message. I thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
If you enjoy this podcast, make sure you subscribe so you never miss any of our future episodes. Rate and review Obehi Podcast and share with your friends who might need it. I remain Obehi Ewanfo. Thank you so much for listening, and talk to you in the next episode.